Greetings, Rothlings, and welcome to my little corner of this series of tubes we like to call the Internet. This is SpaceWeek Live for Sunday, January 24th, 2021. Let's take a look at last week. Last Sunday, Virgin Orbit successfully launched their Launcher 1 rocket to orbit for the first time. I mentioned this during Space Week, but I wanted to show you some of the views of the launch, which are pretty cool. I can't include the sound because they have copyrighted audio. But if you're not familiar, Virgin Orbit is an offshoot of the Virgin Group and related to Virgin Galactic enterprises of Sir Richard Branson. And so the Launcher 1 rocket is carried underneath a 747 airplane called Cosmic Girl, which they flew over the Mojave Desert in California. Their last attempt, last May 2020, was unsuccessful. This one was a success. The rocket boosted itself to orbit and deployed the payloads successfully. Now, it was primarily a test mission, but it did include some scientific payloads for NASA and in the ELANA program, which I don't remember what that stands for. But yeah, so oh, hello. Nice. Thumbs up. So good job, Virgin Orbit. Then last Tuesday, a Chinese Long March 3 launched the Tiantong 103 communication satellite. There was no live stream as usual for China, but here is a replay. Good job, China. Then on Wednesday, at about 2 a.m. my time, the opposite of that New Zealand time, a rocket. Oop, I muted myself. A Rocket Lab Electron rocket launched a communication satellite for the OHB group in a mission called Another One Leaves the Crust. They didn't attempt to recover the first stage booster this time, but they promise that the recoveries are coming.
Come on, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Engine start. 1.
So another Rocket Lab news. Either, I think maybe next month in February or March, they will be doing their first launch from their new launch pad in on Wallops Island, Virginia, which is where Northrop Grumman launches from. And they also have constructed a second launch pad at their launch complex in New Zealand. So, yay for Rocket Lab. Let's see. Then a few hours later, so that was at like 2 a.m., then at 8 a.m., SpaceX launched Starlink 16, which brings the total number of Starlink satellites in orbit to 951. Let's watch that real quick.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
So the next most populous satellite constellation is operated by Planet Labs, which owns more than 150 small sats for Earth observation. Then, here, let's zoom to the landing because everybody likes those. Let's see. Oh yeah, coverage or the video feed was a little rough for this one. Now it's funny, they have issues with the video feeds because the landing burn from the rocket jostles the drone ship and interferes with its the alignment of its satellite uplink for video because it's located hundreds of miles or about 100 miles offshore. And however, we do have lots of videos of Falcon booster landings, but for some reason, certain individuals like to hone in on the ones that where the feed is interrupted and project that that's what happens every time and that there's some sort of trickery involved, which is absurd. Then this morning, just a few hours ago, SpaceX set another record by launching 143 satellites at once on a Falcon 9 mission called Transporter 1, breezing past India's previous record of 104 satellites launched on a PSLV rocket back in 2017. This was SpaceX's first dedicated rideshare mission and included small sats from multiple companies and government customers, including a batch of SuperDoves for Planet Labs, whom I just mentioned, expanding their already sizable constellation of teeny tiny satellites. This is a view of the stack. You can see the 10 Starlinks at the bottom of the stack. Those were the last to deploy. And then a bunch of clusters of small sats arranged up above. Pretty sweet. Let's take a look at the launch and then a word about the trajectory.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. and liftoff.
Impulse pitching downrange.
Stage 1 chamber pressure is nominal.
We are T+.
So, Peter S. said SpaceX is #1 in space litter, and he is not correct. #1 in space litter is Bennu. Bennu holds the record for sure. Anyway, back to it. Oh, yes. So, the landing. Here we go.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
LOS stage 2, Cape Canaveral expected.
And Falcon 9 returns safely once again. That is the 5th time for this particular booster. And
So now the record for reuses of a Falcon 9 booster is 8, but yeah. So this particular booster has been reused. Well, has flown 5 times. So a note about the trajectory. Unlike most launches from the Cape, this one flew south into a sun-synchronous orbital trajectory. These were the first Starlink satellites placed into an SSO, and they bring the total number of Starlink satellites in orbit to 961 out of thousands, presumably. Yeah, it was weird. Usually they arc out to the east, or to the northeast, up towards, the Netherlands, etc. Hello, Mark. But yeah, this one went straight south, right over Antarctica. It was pretty cool. All right. Now, as for Starship SN9, switch to the biggie cam. Back on January 13th, if you recall, there was a series of 3 static fires in one day, which is unprecedented. But during that, SpaceX detected an issue, or during the first of those 3 static fires, SpaceX detected an issue with one of the Raptor engines. They firewalled it, meaning they isolated it from the other engines, and then did the additional 2 static fires with just the 2 engines. After that trio of static fires, Elon announced that 2 of the Raptors had sustained minor damage, quote-unquote, and would be swapped out, which they did. Then on January 20th, in essentially a mirror image of the previous 3 static fires, SN9 had 3 static fire aborts. But then on the 21st, 3 days ago, as of the time of this live stream, they did complete a static fire, paving the way for the highly anticipated high-altitude test flight. They have also rolled out a new test tank to the pad with, as I understand it, a slightly thinner stainless steel shell. Likely they will pressurize it to failure, collect data, and evaluate the feasibility of saving some weight on future starships by using this thinner sheet of stainless steel for the shell of the tank. Let's see. Looking ahead to this week, with SN9's engines swapped and static fire complete, we're looking at a 12.5-kilometer test flight, possibly tomorrow, Monday, January 25th. According to the current TFRs, the launch window includes Monday through Wednesday between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern, or 2 p.m. and midnight GMT. There is not yet a published Cameron County road closure for those days, and let me refresh this page just to make sure. Nope. But that could change at any time. And plus, this page here is just a courtesy. It's quite possible that there could be a road closure filed and registered with Cameron County, but not not yet reflected on this page. But the road closures usually end at 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. GMT. So 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern is the sort of daily window for these test flights. It's also important to remember that these test flight schedules are very fluid. The TFRs change regularly, and they slip all the time. So don't be too disappointed if we have to wait a bit longer. Then on January 27th, at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 GMT, we have a spacewalk live stream with astronauts Mike Hopkins and Victor Glover. They'll be doing some upgrades to the Columbus module. The spacewalk should last about 6.5 hours, preceded by about 90 minutes of prep time. So then on Friday the 29th, there might be a Starlink launch. That would be Starlink 17. But the time on that hasn't been confirmed yet. So stay tuned for that time. And of course, launches may be added or removed from the schedule at any time for any reason, because that's the nature of rocket launches. Okay, let's go full. And where's my thingy? Where is my here we go. Live Q&A. So so last week we had barely any questions, and I think that may have been because I didn't display this text on the screen. So if you do have questions, please post them in the chat, and make sure to tag my name, Raw Space, so that we are sure to see them highlighted. And so before I get to answering the questions, I want to take a moment to mention, so somebody requested an unboxing of this thing that I just got. For a while I've been wanting to give you a Bennu cam so that you can see what Bennu is up to while I'm streaming. He's actually at this moment off to my left sleeping in his cat bed. And so I ordered a second webcam. I actually ordered an upgraded webcam from the one that I currently use. It's a slight upgrade, very slight. But what I'll do is I'll set up my old cam aimed at the cat bed so that you can see Bennu sleeping there or playing with the window blinds or whatever he's doing. But in order to do that, I needed to get a clamp. So I ordered one, and it came in this... tightly packed little electrostatic discharge safety bag with a Ziploc here. Let's see if I can reach around my microphone. And I wanted to open this up for you because it's really kind of cool. All right, that's got to sound great. So it's quite snug in there. When I take it out, I realize it's not just the product in a bag, it's in this little padded, zippered case, which I thought was a little unusual for a clamp. So if I open it up, and hopefully not dump it on my keyboard, here we have a clamp and the, see if I can get that in frame, the attachment for a camera, or in this case my webcam. So I go ahead and screw this on here. Loosen this, and this opens up, of course, clamps onto my desk, and then the webcam would be held right there. But it's really quite solid. It's like all metal construction, aluminum presumably, and I like it. it's nifty. I don't normally talk much about products, but this was just a fairly inexpensive clamp that I got on Amazon, and I was really impressed with how solid it feels. Wanted to mention it. Also, in sort of a personal news category, this week I got a contact lens. Yes, a contact lens. So many years ago, about 14 and a half years ago, I had LASIK laser surgery done on both eyes to correct my vision. But within about 4 years, because eyes are a biological system and biological systems will do whatever they want, my vision had slipped, I guess you could say, and I had to wear glasses again for distance viewing, like reading text on the TV across the room or driving. I can use the computer just fine without correction, but for distance I needed glasses, and so I went back to wearing glasses. Well, I've worn glasses basically my whole life, but I was always bugged by the fact that my LASIK didn't last. Like, I talked to other people who've had LASIK, and they're like, "Yeah, it's been 20 years and my vision's perfect." So my LASIK doctor offered to do a touch-up procedure, and because of I see fine close up, he recommended, instead of correcting both eyes again, that we only correct my dominant eye to view distance. And that's called monovision, where you correct one eye for distance and one eye remains optimized for close up, and your brain, in 85% of cases, is able to blend the two gracefully so that you can see close up and distance without having to monkey around with lenses. So that having one eye focused differently than the other is a little bit scary for me, even though monovision is a normal procedure. So I wanted to make sure that I'm not one of the 15% whose brains can't handle it. And so I went ahead and I got a single contact lens in my right eye, optimized for distance, corrected for distance, so that I can give it a few weeks of trial run to see if I want to go ahead and get the LASIK procedure. Why am I saying this on my space live stream? Because one of the most frustrating things I can do wearing glasses is astrophotography, taking photos of the stars at night. Because in order to see my camera settings, like the settings on my camera, or, I mean, I can set up the equipment fine, but in order to see the settings close up on my camera or other devices, I have to put my glasses up. And then in order to see the sky or to look through the camera lens at whatever it's looking at, I have to put my glasses on. So, when I'm doing astrophotography, I'm constantly flipping my glasses up and down, and it's really quite frustrating. So what I would very much like to do is eliminate all that rigmarole and get my eyes fixed so that I can do both, see the close-up and the far away. And hopefully this contact lens trial will work so that I can take some more astro photos for you, maybe some better ones, and not drive myself crazy in the process. So, now, questions. Let me see what we've got. Let's move the questionees over here. All right. 117, no. Today. We have one question? Okay. This is a question from Mark Desire about Starlink polar orbit. And I did see that. Why is this batch of Starlinks in a polar orbit? Well, the purpose of a polar orbit is, this is a sun synchronous orbit. So the idea is that the the orbit is at an altitude and an inclination such that the satellite passes over the same the same spot on Earth at the same time every day, so that you can get consistent images of the same location on Earth. And of course, Earth is rotating underneath the satellite all the time, so it's not one orbit every 24 hours, but the orbit to the orbit to day resonance is such that the satellite passes over the same spot on the Earth at the same time every day. And they probably slipped some Starlink satellites onto this launch so that they could begin to provide coverage to very high inclination or polar locations, because most of the Starlink constellation is from the mid-high latitudes, not the because these are in low orbit. They don't have unlike a geostationary satellite or a high Earth satellite that covers thousands of miles of land. These cover a few hundred miles or whatever. So, yeah. So they're going to be able to provide internet to polar areas, north and south poles, as well as high latitudes. Northern Canada, Russia, Finland, Norway, places like that. And especially in Europe, there's actually quite a few people who live in the higher latitudes. All right. Looking to the chat. Evan McGregor channel says space travel without rockets is possible. Solar sails and potential space elevators will be possible with future tech. Maybe, depending on if we can, crack the code of ultralight materials that are super strong and scalable to a length of tens of thousands of kilometers. Solar sails, maybe. I mean, you need a gargantuan surface area for a solar sail in order to propel in order to collect in order to be exposed to enough solar radiation to drive any quantity of mass. But yeah. So also next month, February, coming up quick, at about a month from now, we will have the Perseverance Mars rover landing. That is super exciting, which will be 100% successful. Fingers crossed, toes crossed. But new comet Leonard coming to Earth this year, per Maria Kutujan mentions this. And let's see. Oh, that was Evan McGregor was responding to MVM Motovlog Music's question. Do you think it's possible to have space travel without rockets? I mean, space travel, getting from A to B in space is a very different matter than getting from the ground to space, especially the Earth. We have a big gravity well, and we have a thick atmosphere. So coming down, that is handy because the atmosphere allows us to perform a lot of aerobraking. But going up, the atmosphere also gets in the way, and that 9.8 meters per second squared of gravitational acceleration constantly pulling down on us is very expensive to get out of. And that's why you see the upper stages of rockets are not that big and don't need a huge amount of fuel or multiple engines in order to, go, for example, from an orbit around the Earth into a translunar injection or whatever. but getting off of the planet to space requires great big boosters and, you know, hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel or whatever. So space elevator is great. I'm a huge fan of the idea of a space elevator because it may be a boring ride, but it is cheap to ride a cable up from the surface to space, whereas it's expensive to launch, you know, these great big rockets. However, our materials science simply is not there yet, and it may be impossible. I mean, who knows? But we shall see. You know, it could be decades away, it could be centuries away, it could be forever away. But we can hope, and we can work toward that goal if that's your field. But Snow Kittens thinks that Bennu is spying on me. I mean, could be. His eyes are closed, but I suppose he could be spying in his dreams. But yeah, he's curled up next to me here in his bed, next to the window where he likes to be. Cats are so funny. They, at least the ones that I've had, most of them, they want your attention, but only on their terms. They want to be near you, but they don't want to be touched unless like they touch themselves with you by rubbing, you know, their head on your hand or crawling up in your lap or whatever. Some cats are cuddleable. You can squish them and squeeze them, but not mine. Which is too bad, but they each have their own personality, and that sort of thing is what it is. So he's still super cute and precocious and likes to sit between my ankles at night until I move, and then he wanders away. But let's see, anything else? Yes, prepare my camera to catch the comet. I hope so. I caught Neowise barely. We had, oh my gosh, when Neowise came by, I was so frustrated because I was desperate to get photos of. We get so few good comets in the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere is like littered with them, but here in the northern hemisphere, mid-latitudes, we get very few comets. We haven't had a good one since the 90s. And so I was desperate to get a picture of Comet Neowise when it came around. But we had, and this is North Carolina, so it's not overly cloudy here. I mean, we've usually got, you know, partially cloudy most of the time. But we had nothing but solid clouds for a month. And by the time the sky actually cleared up to where I could see the comet had dimmed so much that I couldn't even see it with the naked eye. I could only see it with long exposures from my camera. But I did manage to get a picture of it. It was just sort of a green, glowy ball with not much of a tail at that point. All right. Southern Hemisphere is also spoiled by the Atacama Desert and parts of, I guess, Australia, which are excellent night sky viewing locations, high altitude, and, well, Australia's not that high altitude, but especially the Atacama Desert in Chile. High altitude and thin atmosphere and an arid climate are perfect for astronomy. In the northern hemisphere, the best place is, I guess, what is it, Mauna Kea on Hawaii, which is a sacred mountain, and so there are lots of political issues with building additional telescopes there. But we do what we can. All right, so I guess that'll wrap it up for this week. Thank you all for joining me, and until next time, keep it raw, and do take care, stay safe, and all that. Bye-bye.